So guys, Horizon Cup is over. And apologies for the lack of content recently. I was obviously casting Horizon Cup and still working 5 days a week on my job. So I was a little busy recently. But today I want to talk about the 5 best picks that we've seen come out of the Horizon Cup. And you're going to see that they are different picks for different reasons. And I kind of want to talk about like the overarching strong champions that we saw a lot of play at this tournament. First of all, though, thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel. There is a reference link in the description below. The first champion that I want to talk about that I believe is one of the strongest picks that we've seen come out of the tournament is Renekton. 97% presence in picks and bans, which basically means that he was picked or banned in 97% of the games. So only in 3, or rather 2.94% of the games did we not see Renekton get played. He was a very strong pick for a reason. I believe in the final between ThunderTalk and Dakun Gaming, he was played in pretty much every single game, mostly by Fabai from ThunderTalk, but he was strong for a reason. Renekton has got a really, really strong 2 and 3 item power spike and even 1 item power spike. He's a great duelist and he's very strong in teamfight situations, especially in the mid game. So you can see here, just watch Fabai in this fight. Pops his ultimate straight into the middle of the fight, immediately starts killing people left, right, and center. And in general, is just a real nuisance to deal with. Renekton very quickly became one of the strongest picks of the entire tournament. You can see here, ends up getting away with a double kill, but also massively set his team up for success around this Infernal Dragon. I was about to say Mountain Dragon. So I believe Renekton, to me, was like the #1 pick of the entire tournament. He was absolutely insane, very influential for various reasons. The other pick, and you can kind of see here on your screen right now, is the Orianna. Orianna was played in 27 games. She was the 6th most played champion at the tournament. She was the 2nd most picked mid laner behind Diana. The reason I'm not including Diana is because while she was picked a lot, I think that Orianna was more influential in the games that she was picked in. Diana had a 53% win rate, closest figure, whereas Orianna had a 70% win rate. And there was about a 9-game difference between them. So in terms of mid lane, I think Orianna was significantly more impactful. Why do I think Orianna was significantly more impactful than Diana? Because Orianna is very, very strong into heavy melee compositions. And one thing that we saw come out of the Horizon Cup is that we had a lot of strong, heavy melee comps being played by numerous teams. People loved drafting Darius along with a melee jungle, along with, things like the Diana. So you got a triple melee comp, but then you obviously had a melee support in a lot of scenarios as well. And what Orianna is really good at doing, is the bitrate is currently dying, is she's very strong at dealing with heavy melee compositions. She's also a pretty good answer to Zed, who saw a lot of play in the Horizon Cup, especially once she's picked up the stasis enchant. Her shielding also makes it easier for you to deal with Zed in the laning phase. So she's an okay answer into Zed, or as good of an answer that a mage can have into Zed. And so therefore, wow, this video is terrible. Therefore, the Orianna pick made sense. So Orianna was one of my 2nd most influential picks. It felt like in a lot of games she wasn't doing anything, but when you look at the stats, plain and clear, she had a 70% win rate, which is pretty crazy for a pick at the Horizon Cup, given that the majority of the win rates are hovering somewhere between 40 and 60%. Now, some of you might say Ziggs, because he had a 100% pick and ban rate. Ziggs was definitely influential in the sense that he's always been influential in pro play. But I don't think Ziggs provided any surprises for us at the Horizon Cup. So I'm not going to include Ziggs. What I'm going to include, however, is Varus. 35 games with an almost 55% win rate. Varus was the de facto Ziggs light. And when I say that, I mean that he was a ranged carry that could very easily wave clear by himself, allowed his support to roam very heavily in the mid game, but also was this pick that was both good in team fights and also good at just, being a poke machine from the back lines. He was a pick that really set up success for picks like Renekton, for picks like Lee, Diana. Varus's ultimate was super influential as an engage tool. One thing that I will note is that from a lot of Horizon Cup games, people drafted very little engage. We didn't see things like Malphite as much as we might have seen in other tournaments. And so therefore, engage was a little lacking. If you look at the top 20 champions on the list, how many of these have hard engage? When I say hard engage, I mean like push a button and you can instantly engage. Alistair, yes. Senna, not really. She has to catch someone in her stun. Gragas, yes. Nami, not really. Her wave is quite slow. Camille, yes. Corki, no. Twisted Fate, not until he gets rapid fire cannon. Galio, yes. Braum, not really. Nunu and Willem, kind of, but it's quite slow. Ziggs, no. Graves, no. Rakan, yes. Lucian, no. Orianna, no. Darius, no, unless you count Proto Belt in Hook. Varus, yes. Lee Sin, kind of, yes, with his kick. Diana, yes. Renekton, yes. Kind of. So there was like a lot of like fringe picks that were picked primarily for the fact that they had hard engage. And I think Varus is one of the picks that was the only AD carry pick in the game that could provide you with hard engage from the Dragon lane that, that wasn't support, which freed up picks that weren't so engage heavy to be included in your composition. So Varus provided that form of engage for the team as well as team fight control that kind of would otherwise have to come from another role. And I think that was a part of the reason that we saw him so heavily picked, mostly because he could transition to mid about 4 minutes into the game and just wave clear for the rest of the game, but also has the poke, also has the damage output, and also was incredibly influential in team fights. When it came to actual, carry potential, not many Dragon laners were the true carry this tournament. Actually, most of the carrying came from the Baron lane and the jungle, with a little bit from mid. You'll find that the very sort of utility-heavy picks in the Dragon lane were the ones that did more effectively. Things like the Ziggs and things like the Varus were much more utility orientated, either through taking towers or, as I said, from controlling team fights, and that's why I think Varus was so heavily prioritized in the Dragon lane. So Renekton, Orianna, Varus are picks that I think were really influential. Of course, we cannot talk about the Horizon Cup without talking about Zed. Zed was a pick that only got picked 14 times. It felt like he got picked way more, but he had an 85% win rate. Zed got played a lot by the people that were good at Zed. Specifically, Z. Z was an incredible player for Thunder Talk, but we also saw it on Tatsuri from Team Secret, and also Yo played it a little bit on the side of DKG. Zed was incredibly strong in the Horizon Cup. Actually, one of the most influential picks, mostly due to the fact that he had incredible side lane pressure, but also could still provide that team fight utility with Seralda's Grudge. I think Zed definitely goes for me as being one of my strongest picks of the entire tournament. And I think a lot of the strong laners really made him look absolutely excellent. You can watch him here off the back of this Elder fight. He's just got his ultimate back up again. Z, by the way, was an incredibly good Zed player. But I just think that we saw a kind of a rise of assassins in the Horizon Cup, like specifically Zed, but also like a lot of split pushing and champions that were very good in side lanes. Zed happened to be a champion that could be both, assassin heavy, but also very, very good in side lanes. And I think that's one thing that really came true this Horizon Cup tournament, that 1v1 champions that could push side lanes did really well. So that's why Hueba did really well on the Jax, for instance. And speaking of Jax, that's who I want to talk about as my final pick. Riven was very strong, and Garen also were sort of honorable mentions, in my opinion. Riven and Garen both honorable mentions. But Jax, he was a pick that wasn't picked that much, 12 games, mostly by Hueba and a little bit by Trebor as well. But what I will say about Jax is that we saw Jax played in the jungle like no one had ever played Jax in pro play. Hueba single-handedly set the tone for how Jax would be played right at the start of the tournament. And I think whilst this is a pick that probably won't work as well in solo queue because it really requires your team to give you the gold necessary, it was a pick that very clearly had a huge amount of impact on the meta. Hueba, for me, was the MVP of the entire tournament. For good reason, but also just sorry guys, the bitrate on this video just seems to be dying. But he was also just such an influential player in terms of the way he sort of set that meta up. And I think overall he played an excellent, a very, very consistent. I would say a very consistent tournament. Wow, what an insane Diana ultimate there, by the way. I didn't actually catch this team fight of the game. I was kind of like half watching, but this is the game-winning play, the tournament-winning play for Dakun Gaming, and I think that entire roster was led by Hueba, and just this Jax pickup, it was super, super ridiculous what he was able to do with it, but also just set a pace for like what the meta was supposed to be like. He kind of pioneered this jungle carry that transitioned into a pure side lane threat, got all of the gold and just carried from that position. It was absolutely crazy. I think Jax is one of the kind of like standout picks for me, showing how strong Jax can be when given the resources. I also laugh, like, they accidentally put Thunder Talk Gaming as the winners, but I also laugh that they don't look that hype. They're just like, yeah, we won, guys. They're just like, yeah, no worries. Just kind of won the tournament, not a problem. But yeah, excellent game, and also overall series by Dakun Gaming. So those were my top 5 picks for the tournament. Renekton, Orianna, Varus, Zed, and Jax. Some interesting pickups that I think came out of the Horizon Cup that were really, really cool to see. And that's my little top 5 champions rundown.